Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I see we've got quite a few people. We'll give a minute or so for the last folks to get themselves signed in here. A couple of housekeeping things just right from the start. The webinar is being recorded, and when the when the webinar is over, you will automatically receive an email with a recording. A link to the recording, I should say. And so even those who haven't been able to actually attend will still be receiving that recording. There is no audio option for you attending the webinar, but there is a chat program built into the Livestorm webinar tool. And I'm going to do my best to attempt to answer questions that pop up in the chat. I'll either do that as I see them or as we reach the next topics where the questions may be more relevant there. So we'll get started in just a few moments. Yes, this is Amanda. I have a really terrible habit of completely forgetting to introduce myself at the beginning of most of my training sessions. So yes, my name is Amanda Vellutini. So many of you, I recognize quite a few names that are signed up. So many of you have spoken to me before. And if you've watched any of the Goal Line tutorial videos or previously recorded webinars, then you've definitely heard my voice before. So hi, Dave. So we'll go ahead and get started. I do have that it's a minute past, and I do want to try to get in quite a bit of information today. Today's webinar is about the communication tools. So in Goal Line, the communication tools are what allow you to obviously communicate with your registrants and your players and parents and coaches and things through things like email announcement tools, but also through various other ways, like you can communicate through search results with registration searches, for example. But there's also a lot of other things that the communication tab in the system is going to provide you. So that's where you're going to go to manage your website. So communication tools are where you can create your own web pages, configure your menu options, create advertisements, news articles, and all of that stuff. So we're going to go through each of those different features that are found in the communication tools section. First question that Craig is asking here, and unfortunately the answer is no. There is an issue with our weather widget, and so I think that may be on more than just our responsive or silver layout. Let me just go and click to view one of those sites. So the weather widget is located usually in the upper right-hand side of your website if you did choose to display it. And we've had some trouble. There have been updates between the systems that we get that weather information from. So unfortunately, that module does not work accurately for all cities. And so if it comes up, what we see is similar to this. We see just kind of 0 degrees when we know that it's probably not 0 degrees in New York City, whether you're in Fahrenheit or Celsius right now. So unfortunately, that is still an issue, but we can certainly look at following up on that and see. I believe we need a new service to provide us that information. But so we'll get started by looking first at the different layout options. So the layout options that we have available they're kind of labeled as gold and silver, and then we have a standard layout. So what we're looking at on this particular screen here with our demo site is a silver layout. For anybody who's been with Goal Line for a while, you may have heard this referred to as responsive design, and it's been given that name because it is more mobilely responsive on various mobile devices than other layouts. And I say more mobilely responsive because all of our sites do respond to being on a mobile device, but they just do it in a slightly different way. And one of the cool things, I'm not sure if anybody's done this before, but if you ever were curious about what does your site look like on a mobile device without actually going to one, you can usually in most browsers, I'm just going to right click here. And if I click to inspect this page, you can usually toggle, and everybody's browser might be a little different, but you can toggle between what it looks like from a desktop perspective or from a mobile device. So what we're doing right now is just looking at this as if I was on my phone and seeing how those modules behave when I'm looking at it on a mobile device as compared to what it looks like on the desktop. So you can always kind of do that toggle if you're curious about how something is going to look. And what we find with the silver layout, with the responsiveness that it has, is it changes the way your menus behave, and it also stacks all of the individual modules that are on the page. And those could be numerous, right? There could be lots and lots, or there could be a few. So with the menu, we get the hamburger style menu that's common on a mobile friendly page or in a mobile app. So it kind of behaves a little bit more as if it's a mobile application, and it's just more user friendly on something like a touchscreen phone or tablet. So that's what the responsive design, the real difference between responsive and others are. So I can go over to another demo site, which is the one that I use most frequently in my own personal trainings here. And if I do the same thing on my gold level website, I will see that it's going to behave. I may have requested, I think I have it on my thing so that I'm getting the desktop version all of the time. But we do normally see a bit of a stacking as well. And then the menu just generally behaves a little bit differently. Let's try it on this one just to see how that goes. Yeah, no, I'm still getting that there, responsive. Yeah. I think it's a setting that I've chosen to view things in. So this isn't really on you guys. But if you were looking at your own website without having made the selection that I have in my browser, you can see what your site would look like in a mobile display. So just going back to the silver design, we'll go through a little bit of what the elements are, and then once we hop into the back end, we're going to start seeing where you go to manage each and every one of these items. And there are some things that are not available for you to control, and some things that are. So the first thing that if you did need changed, we do that for you either through the support or through the design team, and support can definitely do this for you just through an email. Is if you needed your logo updated. So right now we have our Stack Sports logo right here. And if we needed this to be updated, you can contact the support team and provide your new logo, and we can swap that out for you. But everything else that we see here is really on you to go ahead and configure. So if you have the silver layout or responsive design, then your site is going to be structured exactly like what we see here. But of course, your images and color scheme may be different, and some of the modules you've chosen might be different. So I'm going to go from top to bottom on the silver layout, and then we'll do the same thing on the gold layout. And we'll touch briefly on what we call our standard layout that has not been given a friendlier name yet. So what we see here is if you're in the silver layout, you will see your logo in the upper left side. You'll see your organization's name immediately beside it, and you'll see your menu along the top here in 2 rows. And now if you don't have anything placed in your second row, you may not actually have a second row, but that's we'll see how you're going to control that. And then you're going to see a large background image, or really it's not so much a background image as it is a primary image. So you're going to see that. And you'll also see your news articles scrolling through. Any ones that you've selected to be part of your news slider are going to scroll through over top of your your main image here. And then potentially you'll see ads. And you may or may not be in the Goal Line National Ad Program, which means that we will be serving ads on your site for you, in addition to any ads that you may want to create for yourself. So this particular site is not in the ad program. So this is an ad that was just created on this site for this site, and we'll take a look at how you create ads and how you select their placement when we look into the back-end tools. And then below that, in this particular one, we have our scrolling game center, which you can enable or disable. Then we have a row of call out boxes, and this will see that we can change this between 2, 3, or 4 separate call out boxes that go across this space. Then below here, we've got 2 more sections. So I'll address the one where we have upcoming games, goals leaders, and assists leaders. So these 3 modules, you can't change how many modules are there, but you can certainly change what goes into them. And we'll look at that when we look at the homepage customization tool. tool that manages the Silver layout. So these three will always be 3, but then over here we've got some content, rugby tournament, and team rosters, and another image down here. This is in currently 4 rows, but this could actually be 8 separate modules that are more square like what we see here. So there's some choices that you get there, and we'll look at how you configure each and every one of those. And then you'll have your footer here, which you can adjust the content that goes into the Contact Us area. But this section over here referring to the Goal Line mobile app is just hard-coded to be there. But the Contact Us information would be your contact information and phone number and social medias as you've configured them in the tool that we'll take a look at. So I see a few questions from a couple of people. How do I know which one I have? So really just taking a quick look at the layout, when you reach your homepage, when you come to your website, if the shape of it is like this, where we have our logo here, image here, followed by some call out options here, then you are in the Silver layout. Then the Gold layout, I'll just hop over to my Gold level layout. The Gold layout, we know you're in Gold if you have a full color background image, a custom designed banner image, 2 menu rows, and then this scroll, the news slider that's available here, followed by these 3 call-out boxes. This is the shape of your Gold level layout, and your color scheme again may differ. Your images may differ. You may or may not have your scrolling game center here, but the shape of this website is the Gold level website, and it's design intensive because we custom design that background image and banner for you and customize the color scheme to match. Then the standard layout, the only way to really identify if you have a menu that goes down the left-hand side, then you are in a standard layout. The only websites we have that have a standard, that have a left menu are what we call the standard layout, or maybe might be bronze that we're referring to that to as. But you have, again, a background that generally it's a more simple background and a banner that is custom designed for you, but your menu goes down the left-hand side and news articles are placed in the middle. So those are the 3 layouts that could be possible. I'm not going to get into some of the other potential options, which would be registration only sites, because those, aside from being able to email, you don't actually manage a website with our registration only or event search style options. So I'm not going to touch on what those look like, but the standard level here is the left menu, and then our Gold level is going to give you this shape here where we have a scrolling news center and 3 call out boxes here, followed by some recent headlines, and then potentially some ads going down on the right hand side here. And then our Silver is the responsive layout, that there's a bit more white on the screen and your logo is a little bit smaller, and your background main image is something you can swap out as often as you'd like. I'm just going to look at the questions here for a second. So this session is being recorded, and you'll automatically receive an email with a link to the recording when it's over. So if you do have to hop off early, or if you just weren't able to attend at all, you'll still be able to watch, and you can share that webinar recording with anyone else from your organization. So hopefully that answers the questions here. So it looks like, yeah, any specific support related issues, I'm not going to address on the webinar here today. But if you do have a case that you need to follow up on, you can always reach out to the support team and request a follow up on that. So, and yes, past webinars are available. I don't personally have the links handy, but if you contact the support team, you can ask for the link to the previous webinars. We've done team registration, individual registration, and scheduling, and today is our communication. And then we'll follow up with some more emails in the future about additional webinars we'll be putting on. So the next thing we're going to do is actually hop into the back end of the site. So as you know, in order to do anything in the Goal Line system, you're going to log in, and your admin login is always going to be located in the upper right-hand corner. So whether that's on our Silver site here, or our gold level site here. My color scheme's a little off on my demo site, but the admin login is always located in the upper right-hand side of your screen. So that's what we'll do to hop in, and we're going to start by looking at the gold level layout because we'll look at the responsive layout additional options after that. So when we log in, you're going to be brought to your master menu, and everything we're going to be talking about today is going to be handled in the master menu communication tools section. There's very little that you would do outside of this when it comes to managing your website. There are other places where, for example, in People, I may be getting a list of search results and want to email from that, and we will touch on that when we get into email announcements here. But one of the first things that you'll want to do is kind of figure out what you want your menu to look like. And so regardless of if you're the gold or silver layout, you're going to have this item here called Standard Menu Settings. And standard menu settings is a great spot to go for all of the goal line specific things that are already created as standard items, because as an all-in-one sports admin solution, we understand that most of what you're doing is to manage your organization as far as specific rep teams or leagues, managing schedules and potentially standings, having registration. So the system has all of these built-in automatic tools that are available. So when you create your teams in the system that you would do through the scheduling tab, you can just tell the system, display my teams in my top menu first row, and then you can potentially change the label of that. So maybe you want your teams to actually be travel teams. Maybe it makes more sense that you just want those to be labeled as travel teams, and then that's going to update the label that we see on the public side. I'm just going to click back here and go through some of these here. So your news articles, events, and things like that, anything that you're using a goal line tool to do is just going to be considered a goal line standard item. And then you can choose where you'd like it placed in your menu, if you'd like it placed at all, because you don't have to place these items in your menu. Events and tryouts, for example, right now are not displayed in my menu at all, but I could make some choices that would be a little bit different. So for master schedule, for example, instead of displaying master schedule or not displaying master schedule at all, maybe I want that to be part of another sub page. So I can go through and select the placement of any of these standard items to be a web page that I've created manually. So I can put that in the About Us web page section, for example. And then whenever I save my menu settings, well, it's going to give you some character issues. And this actually it's a great thing to touch on. So there are maximums, right? You can't place unlimited number of items and characters in each one of your menus, and that's to make sure that they're always able to display properly. So there is a maximum number of items and characters that can be placed there. So it looks like when I'm looking at this, it's probably things like my coaching / team staff that has lots of characters in it. These web pages that are created here have lots of characters in it. So I've gone over the character count here. And so I can go back to my main menu settings and make some changes there to change it up and do whatever it is that I need to do. So I'm going to go back there and I'm just going to take a look. And so, yeah, I've got a lot of things in here that maybe don't need to be on my main menu. So I'm going to go and say that I want my news articles to go, instead of in my top menu second row, I'm going to tuck that in under the About Us page. Same thing with my executive listing. Your executive listing is something that builds automatically using the Add, Edit, Delete Executives tool, and I can put that under the About Us as well. Anything that really kind of makes sense to be part of that About Us thing, or any other relevant option in here, is how you're going to want to select those options. So we can choose to put a bunch of these in there so that I'm freeing up some space in my menu. So then in my top menu first row, I've got teams and standings and divisions. We'll talk about why we probably wouldn't in the real world do both of those shortly here, but I'll save this, and hopefully no issues there. And yeah, so definitely no issues there because I just resolved my menu problem. Now, if I refresh on my public side, I'm going to see the changes there. So I've got my teams, my standings, my other user created web pages that I've created for things like my referee information and test pages and things, and then my About Us page. So about the Northeast Athletic Officials Association, I've now got these additional items. So I've just placed my news and my executive listing in there, so we can click around and view those pages from here. So they're accessible from the menu, but they're not taking up that valuable real estate that you really need to keep your menu nice and organized. So those changes happen in real time, and all you really have to do is refresh. I'm not sure if you noticed, but all I do often to refresh my site is I click on my header. When you click on the banner image of your site, or if you're in the silver layout, just clicking on your logo is basically clicking on the home button. And so clicking that will take me right back there. So no matter where I go in the site, if I click back on this logo, takes me right back to that home page. So that's a nice, quick and easy way there. If I'm not already looking at it, I can click the View Site button at any time and see what the site looks like from that perspective. It will just show me the live site as it is in a new tab for me. So once I've saved my menu settings, and I can now choose to reorder some things. So as we saw, I have some things in kind of an interesting order. I've got teams and standings, but then divisions are way over here. About Us is kind of right in the middle, and maybe that's not the best order for my my site visitors, and maybe I want to reorganize that a little bit. So I can choose to reorder my menu rows. So if I click to reorder my first row, it will show me everything that's in there. And notice that this includes my web pages, not just the standard items. So my teams and standings and divisions are standard items, but the rest of these things are user created web pages. So maybe I want it to be About Us first, and then maybe teams, then divisions, then standings, maybe referee corner all the way to the far left, or far right, sorry, this is from left to right, sorry. And then I can click to order that first row of menu items. So now that I've done that, let me just go back out and we'll refresh again, and we'll see. So now that automatically, that immediately updated the order of everything. So I can see things in the order that I want them to appear when people are visiting the site. We're going to talk about how we get those subpages in other than just using your standard menu tool, but I am going to hop back in there for 1 second to just go over a couple of other small things. If you are using registration or you have leagues and teams and stuff, you'll notice that you can't put everything in the second row. And that's really a matter of how it displays. So on the gold level and silver level site, our top menus display where they automatically show these drop downs. But the bottom, the second row doesn't do it in the exact same way. So if I did have sub pages to any of these other pages, ignore that. We're not talking about registration today. Any of these other pages that might exist in here, they can still have subpages. It's just that they don't display as this sort of hover down, open up menu, right? You don't see them immediately. If I click on About this here, I'm going to see these items, and these are all the subpages. So that's really what you would expect to see there, that you would see any subpages that are part of this particular web page in there. So when you're managing your standard menu settings, you do just want to keep in mind what's the best item to place in the top row, so that those drop-down menus are more useful to the site visitors, and then what items can be tucked under our web pages, what's best to be its own item in the menu just by itself, and that kind of thing. Keeping in mind the restrictions that you have on the number of characters and items, it's often a great idea to create a web page early on when you're getting started with Goalline for something like About Us. I think I've recommended it to 100% of the clients that I've spoken to, because it really does help you to tuck important information away in a place that's going to be really easy to find. So if I come to this site and I need to know where would I find the information about who's the board of directors. And I go about us and I can see there's an executive listing here. So it's a nice, easy way for me to find the information that I'm going to be looking for really frequently. So you just want to consider that when you're taking a look at what items you want to display. I'm going to hop back in as well to the edit title. So the Goalline system gives all of these things a label, but you don't have to stick with the label that's given. You can change those labels to whatever you want. My son's hockey association, for example, doesn't use the words tryouts. They use evaluations. And so if I don't want this to say tryouts, but I want to use that tool, I can edit this to call it evaluations here in the public menu title. The item in the back end will always be labeled as that standard item, but you can change the way it displays publicly. I'm not sure if this applies to anybody on the webinar today, but it's always great to know that Goalline is available in French or English. So you are able to place French menu titles if you do want your site to be visible in a bilingual way to your membership. And that's something, if you don't have a toggle here and you want it to be able to toggle between English and French, reach out to the support team and we can enable that for you. And that would allow you to start creating dual language content. The system will automatically translate as much as possible. It does not use Google Translate. It does use a real human translator did go through and translate that. But then in addition to what the actual translations are in the system, you are able to manage your own. But having those public menu titles, being both a French one and an English one, often helps people to just get to the information they're looking for faster, depending on what language it is that they want to see it in. I'll toggle this to French just for fun. So we can see how there may be some areas that maybe don't, but we can see how most items are going to just automatically make that switch. It's going to try to translate everything it sees on the screen to be in French if that's what you've selected. And then if you've selected French, when you come back, it's going to be French. So that if that's something that you want to see on your site and you don't see that available right now, you can certainly reach out to the support team and ask for the system translation functions to be enabled. It does currently only offer French and English, but for those of you in Quebec or New Brunswick, or maybe even parts of, I'm in Nova Scotia, there's quite a bit of French communities here. I do see that quite often in those provinces. So that's our standard menu settings. So that's where you're going to go to make sure that whatever you want to display that you're using as far as the standard items in Goalline are able to display there. So once you've set up your teams and leagues, then you would use standard menu settings to decide how do you want those to show up. The next thing that we're going to hop into is going to be site configuration. Site configuration has a lot in it, but we're not going to touch on most of it because a lot of it really, the default tends to work and it's not necessarily all related to your website. So some things, as you can see here, we've got some stats and registration related items. There's also potentially going to be some suspension related items in here. So the real things that we want to take a look at in this particular area is like, do you want to show things like next games or upcoming games, upcoming practices in your sidebars automatically? This applies mainly to your gold level website. And I'll click back out here. When I look here, I've got upcoming games and upcoming practices, but I don't have any that are upcoming. So if I wanted to, I can come in here and say, I'm just going to not show those things. So if I don't want to show upcoming games and upcoming practices on my main menu, I don't have to. The difference between show next team and games and practices is whether or not I'm on a team page or not. So once I navigate to a team page, I will see that team's next game. But when I'm on the home page, I will no longer see the upcoming practices or upcoming games options that are showing there right now once I save the changes in here. Can you change the labels of upcoming games? No. The upcoming games or upcoming practices will always be upcoming, and it will always say games and things. But then recent results would be the same as well. So if you do recent results is another one that you're able to display in Teams. So these ones here affect your main page, and you may want to make some adjustments there depending on if you want to see those on that main page or not. And then we're going to scroll down a little bit to this front page display, because here's where we do have some items that might be consequential for you. One of the first things that I always recommend is display email addresses as text or image to select image. And the way that this changes things, so right now my setting is that this is an image, or it could be clickable text. So if you've ever been to a website and you see an email address listed, if you can click on the email address itself and it opens up in your email program, that's clickable. But when it's set as an image, I can't just click on it, and I can't even just copy and paste. I would only be able to, I can read it to type it out into my email program. So this tends to reduce the amount of spam email addresses that are published on your website might receive, just because they can't really be grabbed by, those evil internet bots quite as easily, because they do have to be read and typed out. So using that setting does tend to prevent some spam if you do find that your published email addresses, mainly it's for your coach listing and your executive listing, where email addresses could actually be displayed on the public side. Otherwise, email addresses are very much behind a login anyway. The next item that's important is putting teams or leagues under your divisions item. And this only really impacts organizations that have both. And I'm going to scroll up for a second to show that I have both association teams or rep teams, and I also have leagues. So if you think about it, if I have a mixture of rep teams and running my own house leagues, then I would have both teams and leagues. So if you're using the standard menu setting for divisions, this is asking you, which one should I show you? Should I show you teams or should I show you leagues? Your site will have a default value, and the default is what we would see here. And the default value is typically when you are engaged with us and getting started with Goalline, they're going to set you up as either a club that we expect you have mainly teams, or that we set you up as a league where you have leagues and you could potentially still have teams. So the default usually works, but if you find that you've selected to show divisions and it's not showing you what you want, you can change that toggle here and have it display the other thing. So if it's displaying teams and you want leagues, then you can come in here and just make that selection here. On my site, because I have both, but my site is set up as a league site, when I look at divisions, I am seeing the leagues. So these are all the different sports that I have multiple leagues within. Some of my division labels are volleyball, soccer, hockey. If I click on hockey, I'm going to see all of the actual leagues that belong to my hockey division. And then I can further drill down to see that specific division and all of the specific menu items that go along with that. So again, the Goalline system does a lot of the hard work for you when it comes to managing the sports side of things. And so you're really just configuring how do you want those navigations to work for your for the folks that are coming to your site. If you're a single team, so we do have quite a few organizations that are really just one single team. So you're not really a whole club with lots of teams. You're just one team. You can choose to just place your team menu directly in that second row instead of navigating to it. And so if you wanted to do that, you would say that I want a team menu to be put there, and then which team is it that I want. And you can only select from rep teams that you've created. So those are done through the managed association teams. So you could say that I want my U9 boys team is the only team we care about at all. And so the whole, my homepage menu will have a top menu first row that I can configure however I want. But then the second row would be things like, let's just go to a team here. It would be these items here that go along, those standard items that belong to a team. So team stats, player stats, roster, schedule, that kind of thing. So you have options for changing those things around. You also can change the landing page for your league or team pages. I strongly recommend landing on team schedule for a team, but oftentimes I would recommend that you land on standings when you are showing leagues. And right now, this is not showing standings. If I select one of my leagues, so let's go to just any other league, it's taking me directly to the schedule, which is fine. There's never anything wrong with showing the schedule, but oftentimes people want the standings first when they land on a league page. I'm picking a league that I haven't really used too much of. So let's go and look at one that I know I have some stuff in. So usually what you would want to do is land on a standings page when you're looking at a division, because then I can click through either by clicking here or by selecting one of the teams that's in this division to go to that team menu where now I'm landing on the schedule. So most folks are not going to a league schedule to get their specific team schedule. So that's generally why I recommend that. I usually recommend that we go with your standings is the league landing page and your schedule is the team homepage. Another option in there is news. So unless you actually use news articles on a team level, it's not usually that useful to have the landing page be news. So that's why I would recommend the schedule. The last thing that we're going to look at in our site configuration for now is the call out boxes. And this applies only to the gold level layout. Again, just like this one here that we're looking at. And I'll go back to my homepage so we can see those call out boxes. So these are my 3 call out boxes that I can configure. I configure those in my site configuration tool, and they can be all kinds of different things. Some could be filled with standard things, or I can create my own by using an image and just telling it where I want you to go when you click on that image. And you can include teaser text if you need to. If you have a graphic that already has the words, you don't even need to have the teaser text in there. It's also possible for you to place an RSS feed on your site in your callout box. So live updates here is actually an RSS feed pulling from another Goal Line website. But any website that has an RSS feed that we can recognize as being valid can be used as this. So a lot of times folks will use that for like their governing body news page to have news from your governing body organization or your parent organization showing up directly on your website. If I click on this news article, it's going to take me to that site and that article and in a new tab so that I'm not drawn away from where I was. So those are the 3 call out boxes. So when we want to manage those, you come down here and you select the type. So we could have next event, upcoming events, and the difference is next event is the next one, but upcoming would be a list. Scores would be your recent results. Games is going to be upcoming games. Practices would be upcoming practices. You can have up to 3 featured news articles that display directly in here. Tonight's games is exactly that, game scheduled for the current day, the RSS feed option, and then the image upload with text. So most of these are fairly straightforward. If I select next event, then I choose what the title is going to be. So I want the title to be next event. I want to make sure, because it will allow you, unfortunately, to select a title that maybe isn't relevant. So you do want to be aware of that. So there are titles that are available for each of the types, but the titles are all it's one list of titles and one list of types. So you do want to make sure that you're selecting the appropriate ones. So whichever one you select here is just going to automatically just populate with whatever item it is you selected. Using RSS feed, you do have to now put in what that feed address is. And there's some help information here on where to find that. But we don't really support, creating an RSS feed. So you would have to find it, locate it from somewhere else, and then apply it in here. And if it doesn't work, when you try to save, it's going to say that we're not able to use that RSS feed. For the just everyone's information, if you are using Goal Line, it's really just take your website's URL and add this /rss.php. So that's a pretty simple way to get RSS feeds kind of shared around. The last one that I want to take more time to look at is going to be this image upload with text. Image upload with text is also available to use on your Silver layout, and it's really, really popular because it's one of those ways to get something in a module when none of the other items really suit you. So image upload with text first will ask you if you want, you can include the teaser text or not. So if I don't need the teaser text there, I don't have to place it. And then what I want it to link to is going to be any of my standard items or any of my user created web pages. And it kind of differentiates between the two. So if I want this to be, like mine right now is going to the referee login. And so I've got it linked to the standard item called ref login. And I've just chosen an image that happens to be on my public site is a whistle. That's a great question that was just asked about what size do our photos have to be to fit properly in the box. I don't have that in front of me, and I should have had that. Let me see if it's in here. It is. Yay. So 212, I knew it was something obscure. So 212 by 219 in dimensions is what's kind of ideal to fit in there. Now, if you are on a Silver layout, that could vary, and the size of your image doesn't matter as much. On the Gold layout, it does have to be more rough. More roughly square. If it's not roughly square, it will not accept the image. But on a Silver level layout, because your modules could be in various places, it may allow you to upload photos of a different dimension, and it will expand or reduce them. So yeah, 212 by 219 is the ideal dimension for the images that you want to use as part of your callout box. So you would choose your file, and then you're going to just browse your computer. You can access your current image that's there by clicking on it, and it's going to download it to your computer. So again, I've used a whistle, and I've put it to my referee login, and I had referee login as my teaser text there, so that that information was there. But if your image had graphics on it and words on it, so that this wasn't required, you can just not include that at all. It's not required to include teaser text. So you would do that to manage your left, middle, and right callouts. And until you've managed them, they kind of look like this with the little camera in the middle. So until you've managed them, it's just going to say there's no content to display. And so you would come into site configuration, determine what you want to have in there. And then when you if you don't have a whole heck of a lot, using your news articles is a great one, because it just kind of fills the space and it becomes kind of dynamic. Upcoming games and practices or scores for your recent results, I often recommend using those types of things in your callout boxes. As long as you're using the scheduling tools, the huge benefit that you get from that is that it's constantly updated just by the fact that you're managing your organization like you have to from a day-to-day basis anyway. So there is a schedule. So upcoming games has content, and that's dynamic because tomorrow's schedule is different than the next day and the next day. And then as soon as you report games, which you'll want to do to maintain your standings or your team statistics, then the recent results and scores will automatically be updating as well. So it's a really great way to get some dynamic information on the site that you don't have to actually physically go in and do a lot to change every day, because by virtue of doing your day-to-day activities, it's going to be updating your website for you. So that's why some of those modules are really beneficial. So you would select whatever options in here work best for you, and as soon as you save, everything is always done in real time. So you can save it, take a look. If you don't like it, change it back. And that's pretty much what we needed to look at in site configuration here on the Gold level layout. We are going to take a look at it on the Silver layout. I'm just going to take a quick peek over for any questions that I may have missed. Okay. Yeah. So with upcoming games, unfortunately, you on the Gold level layout, it's either all upcoming games or not. And so it sounds like maybe having them having that displayed might not be the best option for you, but you definitely could display just the team one, but it would display for all teams. So it really depends on what kind of works best for you there. So the next thing we'll do, we'll head over to our silver layout again, and we'll just get a quick reminder of what it currently looks like. And a lot of the options for what we can do is similar, but we will find that there's actually a little bit more that we can do with our silver layout as compared to our gold layout. And I'm asked often, why is it that there's additional features on the silver layout? The gold and silver designations really come down to sort of how intense it is for us to get set up and design a site, because there's very little design work that goes into the silver layout from our onboarding and design perspective, but you do gain some additional features as long as the layout kind of works for you. And one of the main things is if you have enough content to really fill the responsive layout, then it is a great choice, and it does work on more mobile devices. So we go into the same site configuration here on our silver layout, but now in addition to all of the other things that we see here, I don't have my callout box options in here. And that's because I have a lot more options in this, which is my launch homepage customization tool. So with this, I often refer to this over here as our remote control that helps us determine what can I do. And then we have our preview where as I scroll over things and hover over things, we'll see that things start to change color. I'm not sure how easy it is to see how much it's changing color, but it's turning green anywhere that I'm interacting with it. So if I wanted to change my background image, I just want to get to somewhere where it turns green. And if I click, it now opens up my background image options. So I can choose to upload a new photo to go up there. And so I can give my photo a title, browse my computer for that photo, and it will automatically update that photo as soon as you click to publish your changes. So you can select either an existing photo you've already used in the past or any photos that are just available to Goalline. So someone else could upload a photo that's available for others to use. So you can choose from an existing image or a new photo. This image does have to meet the pixel requirements or it will not accept your image. It has to be at least 1,000 wide and at least 700 tall. It can be larger, but it cannot be smaller. So that is something that's important to know. And the main reason for that is, of course, in order to respond properly, we need to make sure that we have a high enough pixel image to spread across there. So that's what we do with our background image. If you wanted to change that, so you would just choose your file and upload it, and then you would see that display here. I can also hover over the news area here, and I can edit this as well to say how many news articles do I want to scroll through here. It's currently 5, but you can see I can select anywhere between 1 and 10. Usually 5 is a good number because otherwise you end up with like lots and lots of dots and people never really actually see all 10 of the articles scrolling through there. So that is what you can do with your news articles. You don't create the news article here. That's done through the news articles tool, and we'll take a look at that when we're done looking at the tool here. The other thing I can see is my ad space. So again, I can click on this here, and this has been selected or created and already placed here by using add, edit, delete ads. And so I didn't mean to do that, but I double clicked on it and it took me right over so that I can start creating a new ad. And we'll look a little bit closer at that in a second. The other thing regarding the main image in this top part here is that you can change a few things about it. So I can show my image as it's uploaded, which is what we have right now, or I could make it a bit of a shade darker. And by making it a bit darker, sometimes that allows the content to pop out on top of it a little bit better. So if you have news articles, you can make your image a little bit darker so that the white text of the news slider is going to be a little bit more visible and pop out a little bit more when it's seen on the site. The other thing we can do is change the height of it. Right now, I can only place one ad on my homepage, but I can make it so that my image allows me to make 2. So by selecting the tall option, I can actually place 2 ads directly on my homepage together, or I can make it short where there's only space for 1 ad. Now, you don't even have to use the ads that are here, but you can toggle between either short or tall for either 1 ad placement or 2. With respect to the menu up here, we already did talk about standard menu settings, but if I was to click on this, it's going to take me directly to edit standard menu settings, because this is my standard menu and that's really all I can do in there. I guess we'll address the weather widget because that was brought up right at the very, very first of the call. So this weather widget, if it's not working for you, if it doesn't work for your city code, you can choose to just not display the weather. And when you save, then now it's going to show that if you have it, that's where it will go, but it's currently disabled. The next thing we have is the scrolling game center, and I can click on this to either show it or not. And when I do have it, I can not display it if it's already currently displayed, or I can set it that yes, the scrolling game center is going to show all of my leagues and teams. Down below, we have our call-out box options. So there's options here for 2, 3, or 4. So if I select 2, it just makes them wider. If I select 3, that's what we see on the public site right now. And if I select 4, it just makes them a little bit more narrow. But the same type of content can go into them. And then we can do the same as far as configuring what goes down here. So we've got either our 2x4 grid or our 4 rows. We're currently in 4 rows. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 down here, or I can change it to be a 2x4 grid. So this gets into the idea that if you have a lot of content, the responsive design layout is a great layout for you, because it's definitely, there's just so many modules where you can place items. So the way that I actually place content is now going to be using the drag and drop. So now that we've gotten through the top part, and actually I'll click real quick down here on the bottom. When I click down here, this is where it's going to pop up and ask me, what is my organization's information? If you haven't done this yet, you'll probably see the same address information that's on my demo site here right now, which is just the Goal Line office and Goal Line's toll-free phone number. So you would want to put in your actual information in there so that your contact us information is what displays. So that being said, the rest of it is now sort of drag and drop and put what you want in each of these modules. So I'm going to go through a few of the options that you have in here. So you have various communication tool options, things like news articles, events, the image upload with text, of course, that we've taken a look at already here, the RSS feed option, and then you can actually put your Twitter feed and Facebook widgets directly in these modules as well. So you do have to get that content from your social media and then whatever your title is, and you don't really need much more than that. And then you would take this information. I'm just going to click on it. Now I'm dragging it and I can drop it anywhere that turns dark green for me. So if I don't want, I don't know, if I don't want this to be a news article, I can make that my Facebook widget instead. Now, obviously, I didn't configure it, so it's not going to display me anything here, but your communication options for your Twitter feed and your YouTube and things like that, your Facebook page, these can be dragged and dropped into any of these modules. Oftentimes, I see the social media ones going in this area so that they're a little bit more visible. On the gold level layout, you can definitely have your Twitter feed, but it will be displayed down here. So let's go back. Sorry, there we go. So the next couple of things that I'll just look at here is image upload with text. I'm just going to drag one of these over. This is a really popular option for these side modules. And when you do this on the silver layout, the only difference is that you don't select from a set of web pages and standard items. You can actually just type in the URL. So you would just type in the URL that you want it to link to, and then still give it the optional title and use any existing images or you would go ahead and upload your own image to place in there. So that's the image upload with text. And then the next items that we have down here are about scheduling and statistics. So these are fairly straightforward as far as recent results and upcoming schedules and things. So again, we can just drag and drop, no recent scores to display, upcoming practices. These are things on my demo site here. We definitely don't have a whole lot going on for scheduled items here, but you can get an idea that you can place these items, and then as you use the scheduling tools, they will automatically start populating with that content. That flows directly through to the next section, which is going to be your statistics. And this is where you are able to get more specific to just certain leagues or teams. So with points leaders, you can choose between some of the groupings that you have. So you don't have to do it for all. So I can say I want my soccer points leaders to go into this to this one here. And if I want other things like goals leaders specifically, what sport is it that I want? So my hockey goals leaders, I can drop in to any of these items, and it will automatically start calculating and show those leaderboards for each and every one of those divisions or teams that I've selected to show in there. So it's a really neat thing. A lot of youth organizations do really like those things because kids love to see their names on the websites. So some of the statistics in here. Now I have a multi-sport site, so there's I have stats options here that are going to be for all the different sports, but your options will be specific to whatever sport you are. So you shouldn't necessarily see all of these things, but you can see that you can put in all kinds of different statistical information, which is really neat to see when you have different modules displayed there. So I've seen sites that use all 8 of the internal, like the 2x4 grid here, to just be points leaders, which is really kind of a neat little section to go to and view content. So that I'm not going to go through each and every one of which these options here, but as you can see, you can drag and drop whatever it is that you want into each and every one of your content modules. And then when it comes to the rest of the items, you're either creating a web page, creating a news article, or creating an ad and choosing where you want it to be placed. So that's what we're going to look at next here. I'm just going to take a quick look at the questions while I get back out there. And so let me see, can we do player registration via Goalline? Absolutely. We've done a couple webinars on registration. So if you want to reach out to the support team, just Goalline support@stacksports.com. You can ask for information about registration, and we can give you all the details there and set you up with a merchant account. On the responsive layout, the slider for news articles, I show 5 of them, yeah. And it shows those, not the ones we indicated in news article. So it does, with the news slider, it always does show. I think I do understand where you're going with that, though. I'm going to click on Add, Edit, Delete News Articles. So regardless of your site layout, creating a news article is always done in this section, Add, Edit, Delete News Articles. Most of this is pretty straightforward. So you give it a title. You can give it a date to publish and a date to expire. You don't have to include an expiration date at all. If you don't want the article to expire and go away off the site, then you don't want to include an expiry date. But you can create a news article that then automatically publishes on this date and this time. So yes, what the question there, Craig, I do know. Yeah, with the silver layout, the news slider, it does take them in chronological order. So there is a setting on here somewhere. I believe it's down here. Yes. So this setting down here for on the news slider actually does not apply. So I'm going to take that to our product team, because when you are in the silver layout, all of your news articles will go onto the news slider as long as they're published. So that is something that we should just basically not be showing you this choice when you're on the silver layout. But on the gold level layout, it is something that applies. The only time that it would ever not apply for it going on the news slider is if you had it not published and set to not to hide it from the public side of your website altogether. So that's something that we'll have to look into as a bit of an issue. On the silver layout, all of your news articles will go into your news slider, and then in chronological order into your call out boxes. When it comes to your news article creation, though, you can choose whether or not you want the date to display. You can choose a photo to be the main image to go along with your news article. You can actually choose from existing photos you've already used in the past as well. You can caption your photo, and then you can also provide an article summary. None of that is required. The only things that are absolutely required are the published date, the title, and the actual description. You do have to have something in the description of your news article. Your article summary can be left blank. If you are going to leave it blank, check this box. Otherwise, it might look like it's duplicating some content. So your article summary would be sort of that one sentence read that would go through here, rosters available online. So that's a good summary. We have a title and a summary here. And then if I want to read more, it's going to take me to that news article and then show me what the actual content of the article is. And that's what goes into this description, which has a full editor here where you're able to insert images and all kinds of things in line, so you can format your news articles in a really nice, robust way. We're not going to talk about the email just right this second. I'm going to actually, we're going to go over by a few minutes here because I'm going to back out. So now that we've looked at news articles, I want to show you ads, and then we'll take a look at the email announcements. So add, edit, delete ads is where you go to create any of your ad content. The title you give your advertisement is for you. It's not for the public. So oftentimes it would be something like, Ferrari 1, Ferrari 2, or Tim Hortons 3, or things like that. And the reason you might have more than one is so that you can give certain ads more exposure. So the more often you want an ad to be seen, it means you want to probably recreate that a little bit more frequently. So you would create an ad. Ad number 1. And the ad itself is usually just going to be an image and a link to that image. So I would select the image option here. I'm going to browse my server to find a picture that I want to use, either one I've already used in the past or a new one. So I've got my image in here now. I can play around with the dimensions of it. And then when I'm happy with it, it's there. And now I can click on that, insert a link, and put in the URL that this should go to. So, my sponsor website.com. So you can do whatever you need to with your ads there. So if you need it to be clickable and go somewhere, then you want to click on that. A quick note about any link that you create is using targets. If you want it to open in a new tab, then you want to select the new window bracket blank option here. Otherwise, it will take over the current page. So if it's a sponsor, if it's an external link, then I usually recommend that you use the new window option. And that way, they're not directed away from your site. Once you've created your ad, then you go and decide where do you want it placed. And you'll see that you've got some team-specific and league-specific options. Now, obviously, if you only have leagues or teams, you won't have both of these choices, but you'll always have general as well as either team or league-specific. If I want it to be placed on just my homepage, I can do that. Or if I want it to be placed anywhere and everywhere, I can say that I want it to display on the entire website. Alternatively, if it's a league or team-specific sponsor, you could just say I want it to display on all of the team-specific pages for my pups team, or it's a soccer sponsor, so I want it to go on all of my sponsor or soccer division pages. So you can get kind of specific with where exactly you want the placement of your ads to be. Once you preview your ad, you can take a look, see what it's going to look like when it's placed, and then go ahead and post that ad. It's going to start showing, and if any other ads are displayed on the same pages as you've selected, they're going to share their time. So each time I land on the site, so I'm on my site here now, I've got this goal line ad going, but I have other ads placed on that same page. So here we go. If I click on, if I keep coming back, it's showing me new ads each time that I come back to the site, and it's just going to rotate through them based on the quantity of ads that I have created to go in those same exact placements. So the last thing that we're going to look at is our web pages and then email. So to create a web page or to manage an existing web page, you'll select whichever option is appropriate. I'm going to click Manage Web Pages so we can see how this list looks, and it shows me where they're placed. So in my top menu, first row, I have these. These are sub pages to this one. Then top menu, second row, I have these, and then I have some that are not displayed in the menu at all, which is totally fine because they could be linked to through other areas. So not displayed on menu does not mean private. It does mean that they're just not in your menu, and you could create links to them from any other place. So lots of different ways to get links to those user-created web pages that aren't directly in your menu. I'm just going to go ahead and edit one of these pages and show a brief overview of the options that you see in here. So with our editor options, we just did take a quick look at how do I insert an image, and then we had a link to that image. But you can also use some other formatting options like your styles for your different heading options, and different types of script and different sizing for your script. The editor options are not as robust as like a full word processing program, and that's really so that there's more consistency across the different items that you see on your Goalline website, but you can change around the size and styles. You can insert anchors as well. So some pages have a lot of info. You can use anchors to link within your own pages and create kind of a table of contents if you wanted to as well. You can insert YouTube videos using the flash option here. If I open this up, what we'll do, it'll ask me for the YouTube link. I insert the YouTube link and click insert, and then select to embed it on the web page. Just note that you never see the YouTube video on this side. You will see a little indicator that there's something there, but you won't see the video until you're looking at it on the public side of the site. You can also create tables, insert those horizontal lines or special characters, and then some of your typical formatting stuff over here. So with this, you've got this large description area, and you just use the editor tools. We often refer to this as WYSIWYG. So what you see is what you get. It looks like this here, so that's what it's going to look like when it's on the public side. Then you get your placement options. So the placement options here, we have top menu, first row, but if I selected any of these other options, that's how I start creating those sub-page drop-down menus. So if I wanted this to be part of Coach's Corner, I would select Coach's Corner, and then it becomes a sub-page of Coach's Corner and not just directly in my menu. I can also use this as a web page redirect, which means I wouldn't even put content here. That's essentially a way for you to create a button in your menu that goes somewhere entirely outside of your Goalline system. If you have a sponsor or maybe you have another Goalline website, a lot of times I see this with tournaments. If you have your association site and your tournament site using Goalline, maybe this is your tournament page and you want to direct people to your tournament website, which is another Goalline site. So you're able to do that. When you're using the web page redirect, you can choose, should it open directly or should it open in a new tab? And I'll use the same logic as my link option earlier. If it's staying within your Goalline site, then don't worry about it. You can keep it as a direct link. But if it's going external, or maybe it's a link to a registration form, you might want that to open in a new tab so that people can have that open and not get lost from where they were. The last thing in the web page is going to be our password option. So you may or may not see this option. It is available to anyone. So if you don't see this option to password protect your user created web pages, contact support and we can enable that for you immediately. And really all it does is it creates a scenario where you need a password in order to view that web page. So this one here, if I click on it, it's going to ask me for a password. If I don't have the password, or if I type in the wrong thing, it's not going to let me go to that site. But if I put in the correct password, then it's going to actually show me that website. So that is something that's really useful. I see that a lot in use for things like executive board minutes or AGM information, stuff like that. So that's something that is available, and it's really just type in whatever the password is, and then you share that password with whoever should be allowed to access that page. So that really is creating web pages. When you're creating a brand new page, it looks just like this, and then you would save your changes changes here. You can reset to change your anything that you've changed in the session as well. So if you didn't like any of the changes that you'd made, you can definitely reset that. So that's our managing of web pages. And now we're going to look at email. There are two main ways to get email announcements out to your participants, and that's going to be through the send email or text announcement. And the other one is going to be through those search results that I talked about. So we're going to go through, and this will be the last thing I do promise. We're going to go through the email announcement. The title is your subject, and the announcement body is, of course, the body of your email. If you do have text messaging enabled, which is a paid feature to upgrade to, you can choose to send it out as a text message as well. And it sends out the first 150 characters as a text message with a link to the article so they can click to read it online. Or yeah, they can view it in their email. So the email announcement body, exactly the same editing options as we had with creating a web page. The one thing that I will point out in here is if you need to attach something to your email. We don't have a traditional attachment here. And one of the main reasons for that is so that your emails are not seen as dangerous by the internet service providers that you're sending them to. Large bulk emails sent out to a lot of people that have attachments are often flagged. And so we often find that we get kind of blocked by some of those internet service providers. So we don't allow the use of direct attachments. What we do allow you to do is link to files. And so I'm just going to open this up to go back to my communication tools for a second here. Manage files and images allows you to upload images and files that you need to use for other things. Some common uses are things like your bylaws or coaching forms and things like that. So you can upload your files and put them into whatever category is appropriate or create your own categories. Once your files exist here, then anytime you go to create a link, you do the same thing. So we highlight where we want the link. So, click here to download the form that you need to have. And then instead of using the link type being the URL, I'm going to use a file. And then it gives me a drop down of the files that I can choose from. So I have one that doesn't have a title, which is not good practice. And then other ones that are in here. So I can say that this is going to be a link to this file so that when I send this email out, anybody who receives this email clicks on that, click here to get the link or attachment, and they're going to be downloading this file to their computer or opening it if it happens to be a PDF document. So that's how you get attachments out with your email announcements. So you're not going to use the traditional attachment option that you would see in your Gmail or your Hotmail. So you would use that. Then we get into how do you select your recipients. And I think this is why a lot of folks, I recommend generally using your search results, because the more targeted you want your email, the less useful the email announcement form might be for you. If you wanted to email people who registered for something specific, you need to be doing that from search results. But if you want to email anyone who's a player or anyone who's a parent, then email announcement is a great place to start. If I want to send this to some of my players, my label in here is athletes, but yours is probably players. If I want to email my players, I select players. Most of the time, you also want to select parents because we kind of treat them one and the same, right? We expect that the parent email address is where we're actually sending this. I would select these two options. If I want to send it to coaches, I say coaches. When it comes to coaches, and you will see this with website administrators as well, I can restrict based on their title. So maybe I only want to send it to head coaches. Or maybe I only want to send it to managers, or I can use the control key and send it to both head coach and manager. But it's not going to send to someone who has a coach profile and is an assistant coach or a trainer or whatever other titles you might have set up in your system. Same thing goes with website administrators. If I want to send it to website administrators, I can send it based on a specific title or all, or using the control key more than one. Email subscription lists are people who have gone to your site using the standard item for email sign up to add themselves to your email subscription list. And they're either general or team or league specific. And so when they go to sign up, and I can show you this here. So my email sign up is right here. And all I do, I give you my name, my email address, and I say, who do I want to get email announcements about? or do I want just general? And when I enter that, now I'm on your email subscription list to be able to receive the email if you select this option. Officials, if you do have the referee system on your site, then you would have the option to email officials as well. If you don't want to email officials, just don't select them. Because we've selected athletes and coaches, I also need to select which leagues or teams those people belong to, because we don't want to assume that you want to send it to all. But if you do want to send it to all and absolutely everyone, you would say all of my assigned players and parents, or all of my unassigned players and parents, or again, using the control key, both. So if I say players, parents, coaches, anyone on an email subscription list, and I select all assigned and unassigned, what this is going to do is send everyone an email, because they're all going to count in one of these categories. You're as long as you are a player or a parent in the system. You could specify just one or more of the different divisions that you want to email. So if I only want to send this to hockey and lacrosse, or if I only want to send it to dodgeball and ringette, I can do that. Same thing with teams. You're going to have any of your association teams listed here, and you can say all, or all assigned or all unassigned, or both, or you can just specify one specific team. So it's important to know how these restrictions were, and these are all, each and every one of these items is restricting who it's sending to. But as you can see, we're not able to really get specific on individual people. So what we would do if you really needed to email a specific list of people based on their actions, so based on having registered for something, or maybe they're just fit certain site criteria, born between, of a certain gender, all of that kind of stuff, then you're going to want to move on to sending your email announcements through the people tools, and we'll go there in just a moment. The last couple of items here is on, as far as team staff go, do you want to send it to additional folks? You don't have to send it to team staff at all. And then executives as well. Executives are always listed here so that you can send this to your executive listing. So usually I'll see, website administrators and executives often are the same lists of people. So you might not necessarily want to send to both, but just keep that in mind. And what I'll say as well is there are going to be lots of cases where a player is also a parent, is also a coach, is also a website administrator of some type, right? The Goal Line system will not send them this email 5 times if they happen to be the 5 different things on here. So if I am a player and a parent and a coach, and you're sending this to players, parents, and coaches, I receive your email once. I count as 3 recipients, but I only receive your email once, because we consolidate it down to the unique email address. The same would apply if I am the parent and a coach, and my 2 children are using my email address. It's going to recognize that those 2 athletes, this one parent and this one coach, all have the same email address, so they only get sent the email announcement once, and that applies when you're using the email announcement form in this way. We don't have any free form, enter an email address and send an email. That's not something that's available in the system. So now that we've taken a look at that, of course, I guess I should tell you how to send it. So when you click save, that's going to send your email announcement, and then you're going to see a brief summary of your results. I don't have any on there, so let's go over here for a sec. I don't have any here recent either. But you would see your recent announcements, and you would be able to review the recipients so that you can see that. Let's see here. So we'll go back over here. So the next thing I'll do is I just want to show you real quick when I go to find athletes, but I could do this from finding my coach, doing a coach search or a registrant search or a referee search. I'm just going to use athletes as the example here. Using whatever criteria it is that I want, I can search for athletes in here. And when I do that search, when I view my search results, I always have my options here that I can email the players. In this case, it looks like, so this site has labeled emergency contact. The parent profile is actually an emergency contact. And so I can email players or email the emergency contact or parent, or my option over here is to email all. And if I look, I can see I have 125 results in my list, but not a lot of them have email addresses. So when I do go to email from this list of results, even if I select the all option, I'm not really going to get that many recipients. There's only 18 recipients available here, but I can scrutinize this list a little bit more than I could on the email announcement form. And what I would do is deselect anybody who doesn't need to receive this and then email those chosen recipients. And then we'll see a very familiar form, but I don't have to go through and select my recipients anymore because it's saying there are currently 0 players and 2 players whose parents will receive this email announcement. And the reason that it's showing me this little summary here, and I can test this out. So testing. This is an email test. If I click to send this, this is kind of what your results will look like. So of the 16 players that I selected as recipients, there were, this one here is unsubscribed. This one doesn't have an email address. And then Chili AWOD is kind of like the same email addresses are used over and over again for the results. And so it knows that we're not going to send this to anything that's not a valid email address. So it says we've been delivered to 9 unique email addresses out of the 18 people you've selected. And that's really taking into account that chili.awod is the same chili.awod as up here, as the same as up here, and so on. So we're consolidating all of that so that you're only sending it to the unique folks, and you will see this type of thing. So either unsubscribed or no email address, or if the address has been proven to be invalid. So it kind of made an attempt. It didn't tell me these were invalid, but we'll get a bounce back that says this is no longer valid. And as an administrator, if this happens, you will receive an email saying you attempted to email Joe Smith at this, and that address is no longer valid, and you will not be able to email that address again until it's been updated. So now that we've also seen unsubscribed, we'll have to talk about how do you resubscribe, right? Everyone has an unsubscribe option in every email they are sent from the Goalline system. Even if you're not in Canada, it is very much using the CASL legislation. So I can go to my people section and select to manage unsubscribed email addresses and see anyone who has unsubscribed from my email announcements. So there's only one, it's just me. I don't want to get his emails anymore, so I'm unsubscribed. But they can choose to resubscribe me or request that I resubscribe. So you're able to send a resubscribe request. You can edit the message that's in here to say, you know, we really need you to resubscribe because, and they will receive that email even though they have been opted out. And then once you send that request, they'll receive that and they'll have a link to go in and update their email preferences to receive your emails, or of course not. Note that anyone who did unsubscribe from emails is still going to receive what we consider transactional emails, things like access code retrievals or registration confirmations. They are still going to receive those types of things. So when it comes to communication on Goalline, there's lots involved there. So first of all, we've got the website itself. So your gold or your silver or your standard layout, all of them can create news articles and web pages and do some basic configurations and how you want your menus to appear. The silver layout, of course, gives us our homepage customization tool that allows us to change around the homepage, the shape of things, the amount of modules, the content in each one of those modules. Our gold level layout gives us a custom designed background and banner image. And our scrolling news slider and our call-out boxes, and then the ability to configure our menu as we see fit. The standard layout, you get your background image and your banner, and then a left menu that you can either place items in your left menu or not. And then there are no call-out boxes available with standard. Communicating through email can be done through that email announcement form, and you will see that email announcement form in various other places. I skipped over it when we looked at news articles, but if you do go to create a news article, in addition to creating the news article and getting that published, you can just email that out immediately as a newsletter to all of your membership as well. So you don't have to do a news article and then separately send an email. You can create a news article and send it out as an email immediately, and it both publishes to the website and sends it out as an email at the exact same time. And there's going to be various places where that's going to be an option for you. Things like creating games, deleting games, creating practices. You have a email announcement form available so that you can email the team, the players, parents, and coaches that are involved in that specific team or league game. So lots of great communication tools. I know that was a lot of information. This webinar is recorded, and so once we finish up here, you will receive a recording, a link to the recording of the webinar, and you can always check out the help menu for any additional questions you may have, and our support team is always available to help you either by phone, email, or live chat during certain hours, Monday to Friday. So that is everything for today. I'll hold off for a moment or so just to see if there's any last minute questions there, but that is our webinar for today. Thanks everyone for attending. Really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.